The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, I wanted to just take this time really to talk about one of my favorite fighters in boxing, and a fighter that, I always have time to talk about him, a fighter that I enjoy watching fight, and a fighter that I'm always happy to make videos about. And that fighter is one of Scotland's very own, the first undisputed champion since the great Ken Buchannan. That's Josh Taylor, man. Shout out to Josh Taylor. Most recent news on him, it was reported within the last couple of days, and I didn't get a chance to get to it, but it was reported in the last couple of days that Josh Taylor will be returning back to the ring December the 18th. Save the date. December the 18th, Glasgow, Scotland, at the SSE Hydro Arena. Josh Taylor returns to the ring to make his first defense of the undisputed titles at 140 against his mandatory challenger, Jack Catterall. And this is a fight that I know to the average boxing fan, it's not really a fight that you're gonna get excited about because Jack Catterall isn't a big name. But let me say this: Jack Catterall, respect to him, because if it wasn't for Jack Catterall, there would have been no Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez undisputed. It was him taking the step aside money that allowed that fight to happen. So he deserves this. He deserves this shot because he could have easily been selfish and fought Ramirez for the two titles. He did it, and he allowed Taylor and Ramirez to get it on, and for the fans to have a great fight. So he's really the true MVP. Now, as far as Catterall, the fighter, matching up with Josh Taylor, what do we make of this matchup? Well, Jack Catterall is a fighter that, just looking at his CV, looking at his resume in boxing so far, Jack Catterall is a guy that has conquered the European level. He has proven himself and established himself at the highest level of being a European level fighter. He's beaten guys like O'Hara Davies. He's beaten guys like Tyrone McKenna. So when you beat guys like O'Hara Davies and you beat guys like Tyrone McKenna, that means that, at 140, you are a superior European level fighter, and you're on the lower echelon of being a world level fighter. Now, he's fighting not just a world level fighter in Josh Taylor, but the world level fighter in Josh Taylor, undisputed champion, pound for pound fighter. A big step up in class for Jack Catterall. And stylistically, for those of you who haven't seen Jack Catterall fight, what I can tell you about Jack Catterall is this. I believe he only has about 13 knockouts in 26 fights or something like that. He doesn't have a whole lot of knockouts. His knockout percentage is pushing somewhere around 50%. But what I can tell you about Jack Catterall is, even though he doesn't necessarily knock you out with one punch, Jack Catterall is the kind of fighter that when he hits you and it's for a prolonged period of time, you look like you've been in a fight. He beats you up slowly over a slow period of time. And, Jack Catterall, he's also a fighter that comes from aside from boxing, a judo background. And, these people who do judo, they're not shy in being physical. So that's where the fight becomes interesting. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. I think Catterall is going to come to fight. I think Catterall is going to, really give it a good fight. I think it'll be an entertaining fight for as long as it lasts. Ultimately, I think Josh Taylor's just too sharp for him. Josh Taylor's his range, his timing, his boxing brain, the spite, the nastiness that he fights with, the combination of all these things make Josh Taylor a very, very hard guy to beat. So look, I wish Jack Catterall the best of luck. I wish him the best in this fight, but he's got the odds stacked against him because of how good of a fighter Josh Taylor is. But with that being said, he's going to bring some things to the table that Josh hasn't had to deal with in a couple fights. We saw Prograis, another southpaw, give Josh Taylor some problems. So maybe Jack Catterall can look at what Prograis did a little bit and bring that to the ring, because he's not someone that's going to be shy to be physical. He's not going to be someone that's going to be shy to come fight. Jack Catterall does come to fight. So I wish him the best. As far as Josh Taylor, this fight for him is all about consistency. The great Floyd Mayweather, he always says that every fight played a major key in getting to the big ones and winning the big ones. And it's the same thing for Josh Taylor. Obviously the aspirations, the talk, the focus is going to be about fighting Teofimo Lopez, fighting Terrence Crawford, being in those legacy-defining fights. But you can't even get to those legacy-defining fights if you can't beat the Jack Catteralls of the world. So this is about consistency. And I think Josh Taylor has a chance to really capture some more attention from the boxing fans, because you got to look at it like this. Right now, knock on wood, but right now, Teofimo Lopez you know, he hasn't fought in a long time, since last October. He might not fight George Campos till October 17th. So we're talking about Teofimo Lopez being out of the ring for a full calendar year if he does fight Campos on the 17th. And if he doesn't fight Campos on October 17th, then it's even longer than a year. So I feel like Taylor has a chance to capture more attention of boxing fans. You know, Terrence Crawford, love the guy to death, love the guy to bits. I think he's an excellent fighter, but he hasn't been the most active either. So Josh Taylor gets to do something that a lot of fighters don't do. You know, when we look at the active fighters in boxing, we look at like the Terrence Crawfords and Usyks. Oh no, not Usyk, but like Terrence Crawford, for example. A lot of people always compare the run Terrence Crawford had at 140 to the run that Taylor had at 140. And I think, first of all, if we just go off resume and the guys that Taylor's beaten at 140 compared to who Crawford beat at 140, it's no comparison. Josh Taylor beat much better fighters at 140 to become undisputed than Terrence Crawford. But if he goes and he defends the belt as undisputed champion, it just solidifies his run at 140 even more. You know, defending the belts, because a lot of times fighters, even when they become undisputed, they don't want to hold the belts too long because that's a lot of damn sanctioning fees. So it's expensive to be undisputed champion. But Josh Taylor, he's willing to pay the cost to be the boss, and he wants to, you know, defend his belts as champion. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it looks. I think this is good for him because, you know, Crawford's been inactive. Teofimo Lopez has been inactive. So this bodes well for him because those are looking like his two most realistic options to fight after, you know, should he get past Jack Catterall. And this bodes well for him. You know, people a lot of times people in boxing, irrespective of how good a fighter is, a lot of people underestimate the value of just staying active and staying in the ring and staying you know, fighting under the lights, because whether you know it or not, as good of a fight, as good as some of these fighters are, it's important to stay in the ring active, because, you know, the one thing that gets messed up in your overall skill set when you're out the ring for a long time is your timing. And your timing is everything in boxing. Your timing, your rhythm, your ability to feel out what your opponent is doing. That stuff isn't as sharp when you're not as active. That's why, you know, love him or hate him, and, you know, you guys know I don't like him, but one thing that's gotten Canelo Alvarez firing on all cylinders is the fact that he's active. You know, he's active, his timing is on point, and that bodes well for him. So it's the same thing for Josh Taylor. He just fought in was it June or May, something like that. You know, we're looking at his this will be a second fight this year, so that's good stuff for Josh Taylor. So I'm looking forward to this fight, and, you know, an interesting southpaw versus southpaw matchup. And I think Catterall is gonna really come to fight, and he's gonna bring the pressure, and he's gonna, you know, force Josh Taylor to stay composed and show why it is he is the undisputed champion, to show why it is he is one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. And you know, if he wins this fight, then, you know, big things are on the horizon for him. So looking very forward to it. I'm just happy to hear that Josh Taylor's back in the ring, because anybody who follows this channel and has been following this channel for any amount of years knows how high I have been on Josh Taylor long before he ever became undisputed and long before he ever became world champion. So it's great news. You know, hopefully it's a good fight. But yeah, leave your comments down below. Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall, December 18th, Glasgow Arena, SSE Arena. And yeah, man, definitely be following Josh Taylor's career with a lot of interest and a lot of intrigue, as we always do here on True School Sports. So yeah, with that being said, make sure you guys take care. Like I say in every single video, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, you know, you guys be good.